Welcome to Asia Pacific Today. I'm Mike Ryan. Anyone who's visited California has also been to Santa Monica and the slightly wacky world of Venice. Venice is a favourite for the locals and visitors alike. But that might change if Councillor Bonin gets his way and transforms Venice into the designated homeless hub. Blake Christian joins us shortly to discuss that and a low-cost solution. Also, with Thanksgiving upon us, most Californian restaurants are finding it hard to be thankful for much at all. John Sangmeister from Gladstone's Long Beach shortly. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen has vowed to defend the island's sovereignty with the construction of a new fleet of domestically developed submarines, a key project supported by the United States to counter neighbouring China.
Taiwan marked the start of construction of a new fleet of domestically developed submarines in the southern city of Kaohsiung on Tuesday. At the ceremony, President Tsai Ing-wen vowed to defend the democratic island's sovereignty and called the move a, quote, historic milestone for Taiwan's defensive capabilities.
Today's construction of a national submarine. They demonstrate the power and independence of national defence, which is strengthening day by day.
The event was attended by the de facto US ambassador to Taiwan, Brent Christensen, as this is a key project supported by the United States. The US government in 2018 gave the green light for US manufacturers to participate in the program, a move widely seen as helping Taiwan secure major components, though it is unclear which US companies are involved. State-backed CSBC Corporation Taiwan said it would deliver the first of 8 planned submarines in 2025, giving a major boost to Tsai's military modernization and self-sufficiency plan. Taiwan's armed forces are mostly equipped by the United States, but Tsai has made development of an advanced homegrown defense industry a priority. China, which claims Taiwan as its own territory, has ramped up its military activities nearby. The Chinese forces have, on occasion, flown fighter jets across the unofficial buffer median line of the sensitive Taiwan Strait.
Something strange is happening in a lovely part of Los Angeles that attracts many international visitors. A place of great beaches, sunsets, canals, sensitive environmental conditions, fabulous restaurants and bars, lovely homes, and a mixed but mainly well-off community. In February 2014, the Los Angeles Times reported that there were 174 homeless people in Venice. Today, almost 1,200 people, overwhelmingly working-age males from other places, live on Venice's streets and beaches. This is largely because Councilman Bonin has launched a campaign to transform Venice into the designated homeless hub for the western half of Los Angeles by installing a massive infrastructure the locals call the Monster for the ongoing delivery of homeless housing and services unmatched anywhere in the city, including hundreds of units of free housing for life on some of the most desirable lots in the world at a cost of $1,250 or more per square foot. Hundreds of new shelter beds, even as the utilisation rate of existing shelters in Los Angeles hovers below 60%. Showers, toilets and water stations for mega encampments on Oceanfront Walk and at 3rd and Rose. The street-dwelling population in Venice has skyrocketed, while the street-dwelling population in the rest of Council District 11 has dropped by double digits, including a 77% drop in Brentwood, a 59% drop in Pacific Palisades, and a 42% drop in Westchester, Playa del Rey during the same period of time. Venice now accounts for just 5% of the land, but 49% of the street-dwelling population in Council District 11. Well, it's that time of the week once again from Holthouse, Carlin and Van Trite. First of all, Blake, welcome.
Great to see you, Mike.
In opportunity zones, Blake, tax incentives are used to transform disadvantaged areas. Are you aware of opportunity zone projects in rich communities, all for accommodating the homeless?
You know, there actually are, the way that the Opportunity Zone program boundaries were crafted is they did allow the governors of each state to pick from a pretty large group of census tracts for what would become the Opportunity Zone program in their state. And they allowed some limited choosing of census tracts that were adjacent to poorer neighborhoods. So you did end up, and it became quite controversial, it's still controversial right now, that you have some very nice areas. Portland is a good example, some areas of Los Angeles that don't appear to be in distress, but they just happen to be adjacent to these depressed areas. And so to get some synergies, they allowed those upper income census tracts to be included. But I don't think we'll see that in the next round.
There are strong community concerns in Venice Beach that the homeless are being actively encouraged into the area, and that by creating lower average income in census tracts, developers would qualify for low-income tax credits to develop the area in ways they have not been permitted to do so in the past. Does this sound like a valid argument to yourself?
You know, I could see that, but I just, in my practice, I just can't imagine, you know, somebody wanting to bring all those people into the area simply to qualify. I mean, in fact, I mean the boundaries have already been decided. There's some talk that they might get expanded, but that's a pretty extreme situation.
It is California, though, and anything happens in California now more so than ever, I would imagine too, that it looks like Joe Biden will end up being the president, and Kamala Harris, being from California, will also have a major say not only in California but also throughout the US. So what isn't the normal may end up being the norm.
Absolutely. One other thing that happened because again they picked these low income census tracts, and so a lot of the university areas, which aren't always depressed areas, ended up counting because you had all of those students who, you know, make nothing or close to nothing while they're going to school. So, you know, you have Chapel Hill in North Carolina, and you know Duke. I think there's a bunch of pretty nice university census tracts that were included. So some unintended consequences.
Elected council representatives have said they hope to use federal stimulus funds to buy distressed properties, such as abandoned hotels and houses resulting from the pandemic, to house the growing number of homeless in Venice. Are you aware of federal or stimulus funds being used for such purposes in California?
I have not seen that, but there are so many programs that can be accessed. I you know wouldn't be surprised. I have seen these in other areas of the country where people are repurposing hotels, and in some cases they're talking about office space for low income housing, but you know they're typically not using government funds, maybe government programs, but not just stimulus payments in this next round.
Many people want to see the homeless accommodated in sustainable and affordable ways. However, the scale of plans for Venice would fracture a community that has taken pride in their area. Venice Beach has also been a huge magnet for visitors, both national and international, which will no longer be the case if local government makes it a permanent haven for the homeless. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, you know, the problem, you know, and I'm sensitive to the homeless situation, but you're right. When you put a bunch of infrastructure and services, it's like a magnet for the homeless, and I think some of the decrease in some of those surrounding cities that you talked about are because they're being drawn to this area that is is saying come see us because we have all these services and we're going to build homes for you, etc. Where I live, Park City, we have no not one bed or shelter, and so all the homeless go to Salt Lake City. So by policy you can move people. And it sounds like Venice is attracting them. Ironically, I was on a call with a client today, a high-tech guy, and he's selling his Venice house and moving to rural Malibu, and this is part of the reason.
How do you think the problem can be better dealt with in Venice and other parts of LA and California when it comes to the homeless problem?
Well, and this may sound a little bit crass, but I've always been an advocate of using commercial, more commercial properties, because the problem is when you just integrate the homeless into the residential areas, it does create more crime. Most of these people are homeless, the vast majority, because of mental illness. And so now you're going to be having them in the neighborhood with kids and things. And so I like the idea of having them, a little bit, away from, some of the residential areas. And the other thing, you can set up, healthcare and things easier when you're in a little more commercial or industrial area. So that's what I would generally like to see, and maybe you have some limited integration for those that are don't have have received treatment and don't have all the mental problems that we so often see.
Heard from one of the residents in Venice, living on the canal, which is a beautiful part of the world, was one of the great secrets of California, was saying that the older homeless were moved out by the new homeless who weren't as nice, didn't really care about the area a whole lot, and they were also armed. So it sort of changes the whole area when you got these, got a lot of unhappy people with guns as your neighbours on your front lawn. It can be quite distressing, can't it?
Right. And some of them, none of us are that offended by somebody asking for money, but when they get in your face or a little more threatening, and you do see that in a lot of these communities.
Tell us about, because you really know about portable housing. You're very involved in it. And you have some great ideas, especially with container homes. Tell us about these and more about that part of, because you've got so many fingers in pies. You've got more fingers in pies than there are in a bakery, so it's amazing. But this one is really, it's a great story, and it really does address, in many ways, the problem of being homeless.
Right. So this idea kind of gnawed at me for a while when my office in Long Beach overlooked the ports of Long Beach and LA. So it was nice ocean view, but it was very industrial, and you saw literally hundreds of thousands of containers, shipping containers. I would look at them all day, and so having traveled to Japan a few times. And they, have this kind of micro hotel concept, and just sleep chambers for the business people to do an overnight when they've stayed out too late. And so I thought of the idea of like an apartment where it would be kind of a minimalistic sleeping space, but you would have very high-end, elaborate common space for everybody in there. And so I just kind of, kicked it around with some architects and things, but didn't really go anywhere. And then when I moved to Park City, every time I opened the paper, it was talking about workforce housing. We bring about 3,500 people a year in to work the three major ski resorts in town, and they have no place to stay. They don't have cars. They don't, they're just there to work and ski, and they usually end up staying in people's basements, which sounds terrible, but a Park City basement is actually pretty nice, but it's still clunky. And so I envisioned, building a community of containerized housing, and then have it on 10 acres, say, and just have them commute via bus, and you'd have everybody in one spot. So I got tired of talking about it. Everybody was like, they'd nod their head and say, "Oh yeah, that sounds interesting," but it's kind of cruel. I can't imagine having some poor person living in a container. So I got so tired of it, I finally built one on spec to show them spatially that it's actually pretty comfortable. And so we built one that sleeps four. It's all solar. It's very well insulated. Own water source and everything. And we had when we displayed it, we had about 500 people come through in the course of 2 weeks, and the mayor spent an hour and a half in the unit, and people loved it. So anyway, we're still working on that and working on a manufacturing plant down in Salt Lake City right now.
They're pretty amazing things. I mean, there's lots of YouTubers out there and small television programs too about tiny house living, and because you think a container, but what you can do with a container, and they're normally talking about a 20-foot container or maybe a 40-foot, but yours are 45-foot containers. In fact, I saw one that was a double-story one, and it looks stunning inside. So it's a great alternative to those that need a house, but it can be also the first choice over a house because they are portable. You find this beautiful block of land and you just plonk it down there, and you've got yourself a $1 million view with a wonderful place to live in, and doesn't cost you $1 million.
Exactly, and the portability, as we were talking before, this container building versus what we refer to as stick build, a traditional house, it's actually more expensive on a square foot basis, but the portability, and if you look at it, we are going to be a more mobile workforce in the future, where people are going to be, because of specialties, because of need, you're going to be moving from one place to another. And so some millennial who isn't, looking for a, 3,000 to 5,000 square foot house, they kind of lean a little bit more minimalist. They could have one of these, and then, they could be working in California 1 year and then get a job offer in New York, and plop this on a truck, take it across country, or swap it with somebody that has a container on the East Coast, and there you go. Or they end up on an assignment in Australia, and they throw this on a ship. The fact that it's a standardized container, it's so mobile. You can't move a house, you can move a container.
If somebody wants to find out more about container homes, how would they do that?
Well, our website is Basecamp Utah, and then we also have one called grannyflats.com, and our new company will be Modular Innovation Technologies, MIT.
Fantastic talking once again. If somebody wants to find out other things other than container homes and granny flats and modular houses, how would they do that?
So our firm website is www.hcbt.com, or you can just Google Blake Christian CPA, and all of my different activities will come up.
Blake Christian, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gladstone's is a long-established restaurant in Long Beach offering spectacular food and beautiful views from the outdoor patio overlooking the Long Beach Harbour. Always busy and a favourite of the locals and visitors alike too. This was until COVID-19 reared its head and until COVID politics reared its ugly head. California and Long Beach have some of the toughest restrictions in the entire US. Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom and Democratic Senate hopeful and Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia seem to have little concern for business. We are just going to save you all from that terrible virus, that evil Donald Trump. It's his fault. Joe Biden and Kamala. They will save us. By the way, as Governor Newsom says, wear masks, small gatherings, and don't do what I do, just as I say. John Sangmeister is the owner of Gladstone's Long Beach. John, thanks for joining us.
Greetings. It's welcome from Long Beach, California.
A lovely part of the world too, and your restaurant. Have been there, and I can vouch that it's a beautiful restaurant. Tell us about Gladstone's and how has business been going over the last, say, 6 months?
Well, we opened Gladstone's 16 years ago, and we built this restaurant from the ground up. It was a unique opportunity that, my partners and I looked at around and decided that God wasn't making any more coastline in the near future. And we were fortunate to be part of a redevelopment of the downtown Long Beach waterfront, and we're at the keystone of that redevelopment. And we've been thrilled to be here 16 years. We've been what I believe is a growing and vital part of the community. We employ about 150 people annually. Most of my crew is senior tenured for the restaurant industry. I'd say the average tenure in the back of the house is 10 years. Front of the house is probably getting close to 7 years. And things were going along swimmingly until January, when the world was struck with COVID. And now it's choppy waters, to say the least.
The governments often attribute the terrible times with business to COVID, but it really is down to the government themselves, because they're the ones that bring in these restrictions. Just how bad has the local hospitality industry been affected this year by COVID-19 restrictions in Long Beach?
So my understanding, and this is, I could be wrong, plus or minus 20%, but I think for hotels, their occupancy rates are in the mid-teens, where they're averaging last year was probably in the mid-80s. So you can imagine that level of negative impact. At Gladstone's, we were closed for 200 days. We reopened a month ago. We've been facing a myriad of challenges. We had first the COVID closures, and then as we were coming out of that, we had societal disturbances, and we had riots in downtown Long Beach. 175 businesses were attacked and razed in 3 hours, and ours was one of them that sustained significant damage. We had to rebuild, reopen, and then as we got the restaurant reopened a week later after we repaired the damages from the riots, 10 days later, the governor announced that he was going to close on-premise dining again because of a spike in COVID. So we closed again for another 100 days.
The on-site dining, are you allowed to still eat outdoors?
So in Los Angeles County, we've only been allowed to eat outdoors. And that's been a modified number that we've had to go to 50% capacity, or in some cases, we were allowed to expand our dining room beyond our natural borders. So you've been to our restaurant. We're now out onto the pier and on the upper esplanade that surrounds the restaurant. It was a practical and pragmatic solution. We embraced it. We spent a lot of money with outdoor lighting, some heating, some infrastructure. We're fortunate to have a very mild summer, not too hot, not too cold, and the guests embraced it for the 4 weeks that we've been open. And today we got some devastating news.
What is that?
So today the Board of Supervisors, Los Angeles County is ruled by 5 little kings who control 5 districts and the futures of the 10 million citizens of Los Angeles County. They voted 3-2 tonight to suspend all on-premise dining. So if you think about what's going to happen now for us, in 36 hours, in 30 hours, our nation is going to celebrate our National Day of Thanksgiving, which is a significant and wonderful and perhaps our most cherished holiday, because it's one, regardless of race, religion, or creed, this is one we as Americans can really embrace. Because regardless of the challenges that we're facing, there's always something that we can find to express some gratitude about. But tomorrow night, I'm going to lay off 90 of my employees. And citywide in Long Beach, there are 35,000 restaurant workers. And I suspect 40% of them will be laid off. So 12,000 people will be out of work on the day of Thanksgiving. And this stay is ordered through December 21st. And I really doubt that there will be few operators, if we're allowed to reopen on the 21st, that will open until after the New Year's passes. So at a difficult time economically, and this is a holiday season, people are trying to save money, buy gifts for their families. This is normally a very busy season for us professionally. It's a chance to build up an economic cushion for our servers and our staff. We do a lot of parties. Guests are generous. All of that's been dashed to the curb. And if Long Beach is going to lose 12,000 employees, we're 5% of the county of Los Angeles, and our distribution of restaurant employees is probably commensurate with the rest of the county. So we're looking at 250,000 people unemployed on Thanksgiving Day. That's not proper. That's not well thought out.
John, how do they get by then? I mean, they rely on an income from say, Gladstone's, for example, and then they have the tips on the service they give and the beautiful food, so that's an appreciation, basically. If there's none of that, how do they survive? Are there any methods in place from, say, local council? How's the mayor on this?
So we don't have a federal stimulus package anymore. That's been exhausted currently. Mm-hmm. So everyone will apply to the California Department of the EDD, which is our unemployment department, and they'll be granted immediately. They'll get a stipend of $450 US weekly. Mm-hmm. That's not what they're making here at Gladstone's Long Beach. That number's insignificant. So it's not enough. It's simply not enough. I think the politicians did not think through the economic consequences well enough. I think the fear that they've embraced about the disease and the infection right now is not reasonable. Looking in Long Beach, I have to give some credit to our mayor, who I disagree with vehemently because he actively campaigned for this decision. But we've had 268 deaths in Long Beach since the beginning of the infection. 140 of them happened early in the cycle of the infection, and they were in 3 senior living facilities. This was common. We took the sick and infirm when we put them inside nursing homes, thinking that, okay, they already know how to treat acutely sick patients. Well, all it did was spread quickly to the most at risk, and it wiped them all out. So, and that was tragic. But now we've got this remaining 128. So I don't want to discount the 140 that were lost early on, but really 128. Our city is 500,000. We've had 128 deaths in 11 months. It's a lot. Yes, it is. Is it manageable? Yes. We've come off of our highs. In July, we had a high ICU bed rate of 106. That's where we topped out, which was significant, but we never exceeded more than 40% of our total capacity. Now we're at 50. So we're more than halfway below our high water mark. And for some odd reason, we've made this decision to shut the world down because of a supposed spike.
What about financial support then from Council for Business?
Well, I believe that this is really actually a different game altogether than fear of the virus. As the world is aware, we've had an epic battle of a national election in the United States, Trump versus Biden. And along with that are a series of corollary battles underneath that. And one that's been hotly contested is an extension of the PPP, or our payroll protection plan, which was exhausted at the end of June. The Democrats wanted to extend it, but they wanted to additionally add, instead of just take care of the immediate needs, they wanted to take care of bailout packages for the entire financial woes that were non-COVID related. So let's just say for California, they wanted to suddenly erase a $9 billion debt we've run up. Similarly, Governor Cuomo wants the same. This is a form of pressure against President Trump. I don't know how it will play out. I think that there are many people that are deeply frustrated that the Democrats used to count on as Democratic supporters, and they see this as just not being helpful to their personal lives, and clearly it isn't.
Because Joe Biden wants to basically shut the whole country down, lock it down for a long, dark winter. What do you think that would do to America?
It would be devastating. And the world needs a strong America. America is an imperfect place, but the ideals of America are something that the world aspires to. It's the best in all mankind. And I say the ideals of America, not necessarily how we execute. We are an imperfect nation filled with well-meaning people, and we've made mistakes. But on the whole, the world is better because of America. And I don't say that as a zealot or a nationalist, but as someone who's had the opportunity to travel and live around the world and witness firsthand the generous human spirit of Americans and their ability to be good friends to many in the world.
How do you plan for the future?
We take this a day at a time. Yeah, this is, 10 years ago, as we were coming out of the Great Recession, and I was like, whew, we got through that one. In that Great Recession, America lost 100,000 restaurant seats. It was the first time in a 50-year march of restaurant growth that the net number of restaurant seats declined. Well, that makes today look like a walk in the park. The devastation in the hospitality industry is so deep, and it affects not just the people that are working in the restaurant. Think about every job that's directly in the restaurant. I bet that there's 3 or 4 that are there to support our operations and services. And that's tough. We have liquor vendors, we have grocers, we have drivers, we have gas vendors, we have hotels that are we have sales folks that come out and try to sell the services and hospitality of Long Beach, California. They're all gone. Gone. Good jobs. Nice people.
Will they come back?
It will take years.
I
was talking to a dear friend of mine who's a hotelier, and he runs probably 25 solid 3-star, 4-star hotels across the country. And he says, look, we'll just sort of limp through this and we'll be able to service our debt. Our employees are going to just struggle. But first, they're not going to be able to, they've all gone to such deep discounting that just to put heads on pillows, they're not going to be able to take rate for 3 years. They're going to struggle to get people to overcome their fear of going out. and then we're going to have to figure out how we're going to raise rates and get back in the game.
It must really disappoint you, though, that you see Governor Newsom says, do as I say and not as I do. And then that permeates all the way down. In fact, it's going to start from Washington now, or at the moment anyway. It seems that you'll have this half-baked approach to COVID that we're going to save you all from this terrible disease, but they're failing to understand that without business and you have nothing. You have nothing. I mean, to have local council and the mayor and all those around the mayor and the governor and the president, I mean, they really need to take a reality test pill, don't they? Just to see the devastation that we may not get out of.
None have signed the front side of the paycheck, and that's a problem. And I think without that perspective of how to manage a P&L, how to make a payroll, it's lost on them. I've always had the fantasy that when I become king or when I become mayor, and that's a fantasy, by the way, that I would always add a signature line on every check that comes out of the government. And that would be, we would have a citizen signature randomizer so that Jeff Peck would go on that signature along with the city manager. So for today, we know that Jeff Peck's tax dollars are being acknowledged and his contribution to our society are being acknowledged. And today, we city employees are working with for Jeff Peck. But that's not going to happen.
What about, but just on the subject of politics, which is pretty hard to get away from, Kamala Harris, there's a vacant Senate seat. See that Mayor Robert Garcia may be...
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that forces beyond the mayor's control have already bumped him out of the running.
Wonderful talking. When you get back to normal, and I know how fabulous your food is and the service. It's just one of the great restaurants. In fact, almost the great restaurant because of the views, location, and et cetera.
That's very kind of you.
Well, I can vouch that. But if somebody was to pop down to Long Beach, and wherever all this ugly crap that's happening, we got a vaccine that's doing its job. That thanks to Donald Trump, by the way, we have this wonderful vaccine getting back to normal.
I can't wait to get the vaccine.
Yes,
sign me up. I was so disappointed in the vice presidential debate when they even gave that even implied some level of doubt of the efficacy or safety of that. Really, that's so inappropriate. It's like no. We want everyone to do this. We don't need a deep conspiracy on the vaccine. We need to get moving forward.
But when we get that vaccine, what would you recommend to someone that was going to pop into your restaurant and spend a few hours doing a bit of damage to the liver, enjoying some fabulous food? What would you suggest?
So that's very kind. And you have to call ahead and let me know that you're coming so that I can charge you double.
Thanks.
Because candidly, we've had such a hole in our P&L this year that we need to make up some lost ground. No, I'm teasing. But look, we've been really lucky. My business partner, Alan Redhead, Blake Christian, Scott Hewitt, and I, we've all been together now for 17 years. We built this restaurant from the ground up. And we were fortunate to work with a superb culinary talent in Pete Lamar. And Pete was with us for nearly 17 years. He's now accepted a position as the head of the culinary school for the Orange County School of Performing Arts, which is just a great capper to an enormous career. And we now refer to him as Chef Emeritus because he's always welcome in our house. We were really lucky, I don't want to say one door closed and the other one open, but in walked this young fellow, Chef Tiok. Now, Chef T, as we affectionately call him, is he's Cambodian Chinese. He loves seafood. We made certain that he and Pete worked for a long time together to ensure that our core menu items were consistent and that Chef T, this is how you're going to do Chef Pete's menu, which is great. And he's got that down pat. and now we're getting some chef tea items on top of it. So, for instance, we did a char-seared lobster claw bao bun that was so over the top great. It was superb.
I'm
So we're going
starving.
to have a little more Asian fusion in there. I had a restaurant in Maui called the Lahaina Mai Tai Lounge, and I'm proud to say that we won from the Reader's Choice Award the best Mai Tai in Maui for 5 years in a row, and we beat the Stevensons, which was a tough putt. So you got to come in and have a Mai Tai.
Mai Tais are very dangerous. They don't look dangerous.
Don Beach, who created the Mai Tai, although Vic Bergeron from Trader Vic said that he did, Don the Beachcomber, had a rule that you could only have two, and then he cut you off. So it's the real deal.
Wise.
We don't skimp. We don't just put a floater on top and you say, oh, isn't that great? We have a beautiful outdoor bar. We've added some new beautiful indoor-outdoor windows to, sort of take better advantage of our proximity to the water and the beautiful views. We love our Thai calamari. We love, if you're going to have fins, the swordfish came off the backside of Catalina probably 20 hours ago.
Wow.
And it's always a good bet. We get some beautiful opa from Honolulu every other day. And if you like steaks and you want to go there, we only serve prime, and it's delicious, wonderful. And I will tell you that the great secret of Gladstone's is our sushi. We have a little fellow, Oaxaca, who's been with us since day one. And Oaxaca goes up to these sushi competitions in the heart of Little Tokyo. And I mean, this is like going into Karate Kid country, in that these senseis and these sushi masters, they are beyond traditional. And he goes up there and he always winds up on the podium in these competitions. And I'm like, yes.
But you would have caught a few fish when you were sailing. As you're passing the Aussies for the America's Cup or something, you would have thrown out a line and sinker and a hook and pulled in some beautiful fish yourself.
I really do love fishing, and I love fishing with my father-in-law and our sons, and it's just really fun there. We like to go to Alaska, and we've done some salmon fishing up there. We've gone shrimping, and we do a lot of crabbing at their home in Washington.
Sounds fantastic. I can't wait to be charged double. It's worth it. John Sangmeister, look, a pleasure talking with you. We'll do this again when things get
really great to see you. Thank you so much for including me in the show.
Yeah, lovely. All the best. Now, before we go, we've got to know a web address so someone can check you out.
www.gladstones, plural, longbeach.com. gladstoneslongbeach.com. And you can follow us on Facebook, Gladstone's Long Beach. And we look forward to welcoming you to our store.
Yeah, I'll probably bypass the Mai Tais and stick with a maybe margarita or 20. I mean, they're my favourites.
We can do that.
Yeah, they're very dangerous too.
And we're good with the mojito too. We won the best mojito
really?
competition.
Now, they're scary. They're scary, but that's another conversation.
You know what W.C. Fields said? All roads lead to rum.
John, thank you very much.
Have a great evening.
And that's it for Asia Pacific Today. I'm Mike Ryan.